Hello and welcome to the programme. I'm Nima Abu Wardi and we're at Al Maktoum International, Dubai's newest airport. And when it's fully up and running, it'll also be the world's biggest. But after the economic downturn, can it attract the passengers to fill it? We'll be finding out. Also coming up this week, shelling out on turtles, how Dubai's businesses are nursing endangered turtles back to health and releasing them into the sea. Arabic art with a twist. One man's so-called walking canvases are proving a hit across the region. And the Dubizzle Dazzle, the UAE's biggest .com success, wants to expand across the whole of the Middle East. But is it a step too far for a small business? But first, Lebanon's farmers are facing big challenges. Competing with international producers who often receive subsidies means that it's getting more difficult for farmers to earn a decent living from the land. But one man is trying to turn things around. He started Beirut's first farmers' market where produce can be sold directly to consumers, cutting out the middleman. But it's not just about money, as Katie Watson found out in Beirut.
It's Saturday morning and this producer's getting ready to sell his fruit at a farmers' market. Set up in a car park in downtown Beirut, Souk Al-Tayeb, or the Market of Good, is becoming a popular place for producers from across Lebanon to come and sell their food. Kamal Mousawak had the idea. It was a personal mission for him to encourage people to appreciate Lebanon's farmers.
I'm a son of farmers and producers, so I lived in a place where we used to go on the roof of the house to pick our grapes, to go behind the house to Maskebt al-Baqdounis to pick up our parsley for the Sunday tabbouleh. And I was just seeing these things getting lost and disappear. So instead of nagging about it, well, let's do something about it. Small-scale producers from all over Lebanon come and share their own production. Cooked foods that people buy as ready to eat for the day or for the whole week, you know. And what we call mouna in Lebanon, which is traditional food preservation. In the high mountains, traditionally, people did not have access to food all year long. So we have a very short production season, and then later on during the year, people have to eat from what they preserved. What we want to achieve through Souk Al-Tayeb is a common ground for people who fought for such a long time in a country of war. So fair enough, our differences may be religion, politics or confession, fair enough, and we fought for such a long time about this. Like now, can we find a common ground to gather around? And nothing can be this common ground but the land, the product of the land and the cuisine of the land.
The market may bring people together to buy food once a week, but it's certainly not a choice everyone can make when cheaper food is often available in the supermarket. So how can producers who often have high costs compete?
It definitely comes back to money, you know, definitely. Economy has to be somewhere, and it's always about priority. If priorities are just about price, you know, there's a perfect system called supermarket today, but you cannot create an alternative product and throw it in the supermarket's arena. You have to create an alternative product and an alternative system where there's a direct contact between the producer and the consumer. And if you're asking for extra quality, I'm sorry, you have to give something back in return. You know, the world today is divided into two very separate camps. You either have like the business world who does perfectly well something which is making money, and then you have like the social world which are like perfectly responsible but don't know at all, you know, how to be self-sustained. So I think the next approach should definitely be where social world should learn not to have problems with income generating anymore, you know, and where the business world should learn to be a little bit more responsible. And how can you show the business world to be more responsible? I think it's just into translating everything by a common language that the business world understands very, very well, which is figures, you know, translating social responsibility into figures.
Consumers may be paying more for their food at the market, but for the producers who take home an average of $1,000 a week here, it's assured them of a more stable income.
I used to worry at the end of the month about paying the school fees. I really used to be worried. I used to worry about paying my rent. I'm working hard now too, but at least I can see the return. I'm finding better results now. I'm not as stressed. I used to work hard and for less income.
Kamal's initiatives to try and make Lebanon's producers more prominent have come full circle. He's now opened a restaurant where each day producers from the farmers market cook their own dishes. For Kamal, it's an important step in getting producers recognised in Lebanon.
Whenever you talk about a country, like the first image that comes into your mind is the food of this country. When you talk about Italy, you think about pizza and pasta. When you talk about Morocco, you think about couscous. So the food is the most authentic expression of one's history, tradition and identity. Every single day a different producer comes and cooks his or mainly her own typical cuisine. The place is called tawle, which means a table, and it's like if one is eating at the kitchen table, not even at the dining room. What we would maybe learn from all what we're doing is about the importance of saving our tradition and how tradition can even be economically interesting and viable and a definite added value.
Katie Watson reporting from Beirut there. Now, from a small market that's encouraging people to buy local to a big city where most of the food comes from abroad. Dubai imports 90% of its fresh food, and in order to cater to the city's needs, the Emirate has opened up a brand new international airport, and it's controlled from right here in this room. It's currently open for cargo and opens for passengers next year. When completed, it'll be the biggest airport in the world. It'll have 5 runways, as many as 160 million passengers and 12 million tonnes of freight a year. But with the city so heavily in debt, should building a new airport really be a priority? That's a question I put to Paul Griffiths, Chief Executive of Dubai Airports.
It is, because aviation contributes up to 25% of the GDP here. And if you don't invest in the infrastructure to support that business, then clearly that significant contribution will wane. We are seeing extremely strong growth, which seems to be defying what's going on in the rest of the world.
But it does smack of the mentality that Dubai has had. Build it and they'll come.
I don't think so. The ability to keep that level of growth is very much in the art of the possible. You're seeing strong growth in the region, strong flows between China and the Middle East and Far East, and also strong growth to Europe and the US. So Dubai is actually at the epicenter of all that growth. The second reason is that aircraft technology are allowing cities to be joined far further afield than they have been in the past. And the third most important thing is that airport infrastructure in lots of parts of the world, particularly in Europe, is now being very seriously constrained, giving an unconstrained hub such as Dubai the opportunity to grow.
How significant an undertaking is this in every sense of the word, whether it's the economic cycle, the logistics of it? We are talking about the biggest airport in the world when it opens up fully next year.
What we're talking about here is an airport that's currently hosting 42 million passengers every year, growing to 90 million by 2018. At the moment, no airport in the world is doing 90 million. For the existing airport, it's a big stretch, but for the new airport, which will ultimately have 5 runways and very large passenger terminal complexes to suit, it is a big investment.
So are we going to see a change in strategy within Emirates itself to reflect what you're talking about?
Not at all. The very fortunate thing is the Emirates strategy has been consistent from day one, so it's really a consolidation of that strategy into the world's largest airline that's driving this growth.
And you have the funding. The money will keep flowing into the project.
The amount of aviation activity that's generating the sort of profits that the airline is recording clearly ensures that that cash is going to be available for reinvestment in infrastructure.
Paul Griffiths of Dubai Airports speaking to me earlier. Now, can you turn an eye for design into a profitable business? Well, one young Saudi designer hopes to do just that. But he's not going down the traditional route of making kanduras, dish dashers and abayas. He's turning his attention to the classic T-shirt, and he's already caused some controversy and debate, but his T-shirts are proving a hit across the Arab world. Ben Thompson went to meet the man causing a stir.
They say there's more to art than just how it looks. It's about understanding the message or the story that it's trying to tell. Love it or hate it, the pop art on display here is all about the colours, the shapes and the designs, and provoking debate, opinion or emotion.
Of course, that is much easier if your work is hanging in a gallery like this one. Some of the work here sells for thousands of dollars. But what about if this was your canvas instead? It is just a plain t-shirt that sells for a few dollars. But for one Saudi designer, this walking canvas is helping to break down some misconceptions about his home country.
26-year-old Hani Ali Reza trained as a graphic designer. He's worked for TV channels and media firms designing their brands and adverts. But he turned his hand to t-shirts as an experiment in 2009, and its success surprised even him.
When we first put out the first collection, we weren't sure how people would approach it, and so we put out about 500 t-shirts, and we thought that these would last, a year, but we found out that they sold in 2 months, so we saw that there was a demand for it. Some people have found some of the t-shirts to be a bit controversial, but we try to do designs that are open to interpretation, and that invites the actual consumer to put their own messages behind it. But yeah, so this is how one t-shirt will look like towards the end.
But understanding those messages relies on local knowledge and an insight into the local culture. So what is Hani's inspiration?
I find influence everywhere really, but mostly things that are from everyday life. So for instance, one of the t-shirts, the t-shirt that has a girl that has censorship on her, that's directly taken from a magazine, and that's a part of the visual culture here. So I find influences that are directly, things that are built on insight from the culture, sense of humor from the culture. Sometimes we use sayings, so some of them have more humorous themes, others are more aesthetic, some of them are social commentary.
But that changes quickly, and staying up to date is key. So he redesigns each of his t-shirts every season and finds inspiration in some unusual places.
These are posters that I've been collecting recently from Egypt. Most of them are from the 70s and 80s, and even some of them are from the 60s. And I get a lot of inspiration from things like these, which are actually, pieces of graphic design from the culture, and just the use of typography and the bold images as well. It's easy to be influenced by Western things, but trying to find things as well from the culture itself helps a lot and adds a flavor to it.
But in a region dominated by big brands and international chains, can you really make a mark with a t-shirt?
T-shirts for me are like moving canvases, they're everywhere around you, and you can play around with the format of the t-shirt itself and create something. And the idea of creating a piece of graphic design that directly interacts with someone, that sort of invites a dialogue as well between this region and people from the rest of the world. So I guess this sort of breaks some misconceptions about Saudi from a Western point of view.
Hani Ali Reza speaking to Ben Thompson there. Right, we're going to take a short break now. When we come back, turtle recall, how endangered Gulf turtles are being taken to one upmarket hotel here in Dubai for life-saving treatment. Welcome back to the programme. I'm Nima Abu Wardi, and we're at the brand new cargo warehouse at Al Maktoum International Airport. Now, turtles and big business. That's a strange combination. Well, here in Dubai, the region's biggest project to help endangered turtles relies on support from local business. The Turtle Rehabilitation Project takes in endangered animals until they're strong enough to survive in the wild. So how is corporate Dubai pitching in? Well, Philip Hampshire journeyed beneath one of the city's best-known hotels to find out more.
The Burj Al Arab is one of Dubai's most iconic buildings, well known around the world for its opulence and is a key slice of the city's skyline. But beneath the hotel there's an intricate network of tunnels running under both the sand and sea. It's easy to get lost down here, but if you take the right path and know the right people, there's a surprise to be found. And that's this room here. These tanks were built to help fish acclimatise for the aquarium upstairs. In fact, servicing the aquarium is what all those corridors are for. But when the tanks aren't being used to help the fish, they are used for a very surprising reason. Rehabilitating injured turtles. They usually end up here after they've been found by local residents, typically swimming slowly in near death along the shoreline. They're often encrusted with barnacles, like the bottom of a ship, a condition known as biofouling.
We suspect that they are being born further up the coast, up past Abu Dhabi. And obviously after they're born, they make their journey up through past Dubai, up around the Musandam, and obviously out into the Indian Ocean. During the cooler months, they suffer from something which is called cold stunning, where as reptiles in the colder weather, they slow down. And by slowing down, barnacle growth and biofoul obviously builds up on the animals. And one of the main things that we get with these animals is that they're totally encrusted with biofoul.
Nobody knows quite why the biofouling happens. Historically, it's a relatively recent phenomena. So far, it seems confined to turtles in the Gulf region. Saving the animals is valuable work. Many of them are hawksbills, a critically endangered species, so the project helps save them from extinction. So far, 110 have been released back into the wild. For the Turtle Rehabilitation Project, the companies backing them supply more than just board and lodging for the animals.
Corporate sponsorship has enabled us to expand the project hugely. Another major aim of the project is to raise local and public awareness. With the hotel group on board, they've been absolutely fantastic in not only sponsoring satellite tags for the project, but also they have a whole PR system in place that we don't have. We work with animals per se. We don't have a PR department, and with the backing of the hotel group, we can raise awareness of the plight of the turtles globally.
The team hire boats and take the turtles out to sea before releasing them. Some turtles are satellite tagged on release to provide valuable scientific information. That's helping future conservation efforts by providing insights into their life in the ocean.
There are many facts and facets of turtle life that we are only just beginning to understand. There are also flipper tags, which are static tags, but obviously to get any data back from that, the animal has to be recaptured or dead, whereas a satellite tag gives us a near real-time report on what that animal is doing.
But surely there's something difficult about a hotel, once described as the world's first 7-star venue working on environmental projects.
Now, the trick for us is to do environmentally conscious things in a luxury setting without making people feel guilty. But even the guests we have here in the Burj Al Arab or here in the Medina Jumeirah, they really want to participate and feel good about their experience. And to see some of these projects, like the Turtle Project and like some of the other projects we do, and you will find that guests are very engaged. At the end of the day, we're in the people business.
But for these turtles at least, life is good. They get to eat and relax in one of the world's most exclusive hotels, and no one even asks them to pay for their stay.
Philip Hampshire making some new friends there. Now, it's the United Arab Emirates' biggest .com success story. The classified ad website Dubizzle started just 5 years ago with $12,000, and now it's rolling out across the Middle East. But it's free for users and carries very little advertising. So how does it make its money? There's a question I put to Sim Watley, one of its co-founders.
We do charge for certain ads, property for sale we charge for, and also certain levels of property for rent. But you're right, the majority of the ads are free to post and free to view, free to get in contact. So what we do is we charge for advertising, similar to a magazine, where the editorial content is there for free, but the advertising is there to supplement that.
But rate cards here in the Arab world vary so significantly. How did you arrive at the best rate card for you?
It was a learning curve. Unfortunately, this isn't the West where everything is quite transparent. you have to learn how business is done here. And in the beginning, we tried to do things like where we came from, which is this is our rate card and this is what we charge. And we realized that there were people out in the market that were, inflating their rate cards and able to give huge discounts. I mean, in the beginning, it was less about selling Dubizzle and it was more about selling the internet in general, and you looked at the possibility of clients to use, and it was only those clients that actually have websites. Luckily, over the last 5 years, you've seen a real increase in the amount of people that have invested in their websites and in their businesses. But yeah, it's been an educational process, and I think even expanding throughout the region, you'll see that more and more.
Will your business model change according to each market's needs?
Absolutely, which is why, at the moment, while we're scaling up and we recently launched Arabic and a couple of other things, we're doing our research into all the markets that we're going, specifically as to what the culture is there. And Dubizzle was unique in Dubai in that the way that we came into this market was through real estate for rent, specifically, and cars. That need is going to be different in Riyadh, and it's going to be different in Cairo.
So what's the end game for you then?
I think we don't want to take our eyes off building a useful and efficient tool for people to use, but the end game, whether it's an IPO or whether it's merging with another big classified portal, you have the eBays and these types of portals that are looking throughout the world to find other classified portals. We would be open to something like that, but I still think that is 3-4 years down the line from now.
Sim Watley of Dubizzle speaking to me earlier. Well, our time is very nearly up. I do hope you've enjoyed our programme. Before we go, though, let's see how the region's main markets finish the week. And remember, we'd love to hear from you. Our email address is middleeastbiz@bbc.co.uk. Now, next week, we're back in Lebanon, finding out how a group of farmers there are taking on international competition. Until then, from me, Nima Abu Warde, and the rest of the team, thank you for watching. Bye-bye.